At 8:40 a.m. on July 7, 1967, a 17-year-old girl named Nancy McEwen was driving along a highway in Brooklyn, New York. And the highway she was on had this amazing view of the beach and ocean down below. And so that day, Nancy rolled down her window, and she took in a deep breath, and she smiled. At the same time Nancy was doing this, a police lieutenant was driving in his car, and as he was just driving along, he suddenly sees this yellow Camaro that to this point had been driving completely normally, suddenly veer off the road and then smashed into a tree on the side of the road. And so he opens up the door, and she was breathing, she was alive, and there weren't any obvious physical injuries. He thought maybe she's drunk. And so at this point, the lieutenant radioed for backup and also called for an ambulance. And while he waited, he began searching the car for containers of alcohol. And so he's looking around, and he doesn't see any empty bottles, and he can't smell any alcohol in the car. Once Nancy got to the hospital, medical staff was able to determine that she was not drunk. But she did clearly appear to be having some kind of medical emergency, but they didn't know what it was. And at 11:30 a.m., roughly 2.5 hours after Nancy crashed into the tree, she died. And it was only then, after Nancy was dead, that the medical staff made a discovery. On the back of her head, hidden amongst her hair, was a small circular bullet wound. And for some reason, it didn't bleed at all. She had been shot. About 30 minutes after this discovery was made, a detective named Albert Seidman was standing next to Nancy's crashed car on the side of the highway. And Detective Seidman had to agree. This was not an average murder case. But regardless, he knew the best place to start this investigation was to go find witnesses. Police discovered a gas station that was owned by a guy named Theodore DeLisi, and it was located only 2 blocks away from where Nancy had been shot. And on the morning of July 12th, when the police officers rolled up to this gas station, Theodore was working, and he saw the police coming towards him, and right away he knew this had to be about Nancy McEwen. He said unfortunately, he hadn't seen or heard anything. But then Theodore quickly followed that up and said that while he had been at the gas station in the morning for a little bit, he did take off at some point to go fishing out on the water in his boat, which was not too far away. And at some point, he began to think really hard about what he actually saw when he was out on the water fishing, and suddenly it all clicked. Theodore knew who killed Nancy. It would turn out at 8:40 a.m. on July 7th, the exact moment Nancy was shot, veered off the road and crashed, Theodore was in fact out in his boat fishing. Except at 8:40 a.m., he had a can, and he threw that can into the water. And then he raised his rifle and he fired a shot at the can. But he missed, and the bullet, by some fluke of physics, ricocheted off the surface of the water, went up into the highway right as Nancy had rolled her window down, struck her in the head, and killed her. Theodore was charged with homicide, but ultimately a grand jury chose not to indict him, citing that this truly was an accident.